Yo, what's going on? My name is Ryan. I'm a CPA, and today I want to talk to you about tax scams. But first, hope you had a good new year, a good holiday. Hope you're all doing well. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a full-length video. Been doing more shorts lately, so it's good to be back. But before I continue, I would love it if you could smash the like button and consider subscribing to my channel. All right, so the three scams I'm going to talk about are the most common ones that I've seen. And one is the offer and compromise scam, the ghost tax preparer scam, and the IRS impersonation scam. And don't worry, I'll go through all of these. So the offer and compromise scam. So before I get into this, I need to explain to you what an offer and compromise is. This is a program that the IRS offers where if you owe a lot of taxes and you don't have a way of paying those taxes back, then the IRS might make a deal with you to pay, a smaller portion of your tax, or a small fraction of your taxes. And if you can do that, then the IRS may consider your accounts, up to date. They'll forgive the rest of your tax debt, and your account is in good standing. There are companies out there that help people get these offers and compromises. And so, you might be thinking, what's the problem? If these companies are helping people get these offers and compromises, how is this a scam? These are very difficult to get. Like, you have to prove without reasonable doubts that you are not able to pay off your IRS debt now or any time in the future. So, the burden of proof is pretty strong on this one. That's why OICs are really, really hard to get. And these companies that pop up and they mass call people offering to get their tax debt reduced to just a fraction of what it was. What they do is they charge people anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 up front just to get started, and then they might do all the paperwork, and then they'll charge another $5,000 to $10,000 to get that paperwork submitted. So you're paying anywhere between $10,000 to $20,000 up front to this company, when there's zero guarantee that it's going to be accepted at all by the IRS. There's zero guarantee that this company will follow up with the IRS to appeal or to go through any of the processes needed to follow through with this offer. That's where the scam is. The scam are these farms that pop up and try to farm people to pay up front, prepare these really weak-ass paperwork and weak-ass arguments to the IRS, and then just wash their hands clean of your liability, of their liability, and their responsibility. So if you get calls from people who are promising to reduce your tax burden by just fractions of what it originally was, be very wary of these. Now, there are legitimate tax law firms and tax consulting firms that might help you with this, but they probably would pre-screen your situation to make sure you have a good chance of winning the case, or a good chance of success, before they even agree to engage with you in this kind of project. So they do exist, and they likely won't be charging you $10,000 to $20,000 upfront. The next type of scam I call the ghost tax preparer scam. So kind of like the concept of ghostwriters in music or in rap. A ghost tax preparer is somebody who prepares your return. They hold themselves out as a professional, but they don't take credit. They don't sign their name on the return. They don't identify themselves on the tax return at all. They mark the tax return that they prepared as though you prepared it yourself. Okay? Now, why is this a big deal? Well, all of us tax professionals should have what's called a PTIN. It's an identifying number that the IRS has on database that shows, one, that we are allowed to prepare returns for other people professionally. Two, it shows that we are somewhat competent enough to do that. And three, it's a way for the IRS to track us down if they suspect, massive fraudulent activity or massive errors from returns that we prepare. They can track us down and penalize us appropriately. So if you have tax return preparers that you're paying money to and they're preparing your return, and they don't identify themselves on the tax return, they're basically trying to hide themselves from any future liability, future responsibility. And the reason they would do this is usually these preparers will promise you large refunds And usually they can achieve large refunds for you, but they usually do these in fraudulent or illegal ways, such as creating made-up Schedule Cs, made-up businesses, and taking large expenses on those businesses, and therefore getting you a large refund. But 2 or 3 years down the road, if you were to get audited, or possibly when you get audited, you're gonna have to pay that money back, plus interest, plus penalties, and you don't have any sort of tracking or any way to identify the preparer that did your tax return. So it's a huge problem there. You paid the preparer, they did your return with a shitty job, and later on you might and will likely pay for it because all you wanted was a larger refund. Don't do business with tax preparers that don't sign their name at the bottom of the return, and that don't, maybe a good question to ask is if they have a PTIN, and if they do, what is it? And maybe just make sure, look them up. If they're licensed, if they claim they're a CPA or an EA, look them up with the state board to make sure they're actually licensed and that they're in good standing. All right, the last type of scam I'm going to talk about are IRS impersonators. These are the popular ones, the ones that call you or text you or email you telling you that you have a lot of tax debt, a few $1,000s owed, and if you don't pay it right now, then they will call the local police and they will come and arrest you. And this is just absolutely ridiculous, but obviously there are people who don't know the IRS processes, and that's why it works. Typically they target elderly people or maybe foreign people because they don't know the IRS processes, so they think it's urgent. They get in a panic, and then they just comply with the demands of the scammer. So usually what the scammer does is they call you and they tell you you owe your money, and if you don't pay it right now, they will call the cops on you. But you can't pay by check, you can't pay by bank transfer. You have to go, they make you stay on the phone with them, and they're going to make you go to Walmart or Target and purchase some gift cards. Yeah, this sounds really silly when I say it out loud, but this is exactly what they do. They have you purchase some gift cards. Once you do that, they'll have you read the gift card number on the back of the gift card to them so they can claim it. They can claim all the money that's on it. And once they do that, they say that your debt is fulfilled and you can go now. And now they know you're vulnerable. They might be targeting you later on with a different scam, maybe not tax related, maybe a very similar scam, but just a different, different context. It should be very obvious to you and to me that you should never be paying the IRS with a gift card. Always go to the IRS website and pay them via direct pay or one of their credit card avenues, or send them a check directly. And never do so without actually confirming the balance is due on your account. So a common misconception is that people think that if you get a call from the IRS, then it's a scam because they never call you. Well, they actually do call you sometimes, but they probably won't call you until they've sent you a bunch of notices first. And when they call you, it likely won't be completely unexpected. Like if they sent you a bunch of notices that you're really behind on your tax bill and that they're trying to collect from you, you ignore those notices, then they might assign a revenue officer on your case, and that revenue officer would be the one directly contacting you, and that's who you would be working with directly. And they might call you, they might stop by your house or your business, depending on how serious your case is. Yeah, so they actually would do that. So I wouldn't discount IRS phone calls immediately, but if you're suspicious of it, then definitely hang up, give the IRS a call back on an official IRS number, speak with an agent and confirm that your account has a balance due or is overdue or is about to enter collections, one of those things. Just confirm with the actual IRS agents that you call with an actual phone number, IRS phone number, before you move forward if it's something that you are suspicious about. You might get IRS notices a lot, and this is the primary way IRS communicates with its taxpayers, is by sending a bunch of letters. And sometimes they're fraudulent letters. There's no doubt about that. But you can really tell when the letter is not fraudulent is if the IRS has your social security number on the letter. Usually that's a good sign because the IRS obviously knows your social security number. If it's a scammer, they are likely trying to get your social security number or some other personal information from you. So they might be asking you for that information, whereas the IRS already has it. So they just put it right on the letter, and so you know that that's a legitimate IRS letter. You can also look up the return address to make sure it's legitimate. If it's asking for payments, look up the return address, make sure it's an actual IRS address. That's pretty much all I got on tax scams for today. There's many more to talk about, but those are the 3 really common ones that we've been seeing the past few years. So just be really diligent in this day and age. You can never be safe enough. Always double check phone numbers, double check return addresses, make sure you get revenue agent IRS codes. Each agent is assigned an ID number. Make sure you get their ID number to make sure it's legitimate. And always just be sure to know that you never have to give your social security number over the phone, over email, or anything like that. The IRS already knows your social security number. So you should never have to give anyone your social security number except to look up your accounts. If somebody calls you to ask for your social security number, you don't give it to them, okay? If you're calling the IRS to look up your account, of course you don't have to give them your social security number, but that means you called them and they didn't call you. So you called a legitimate phone number. All right, and that's all I got for today. Good to be back. Hope you guys are having a good new year, and I'll see you next time. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a sticker. She picture perfect, so I told him I'm a